Hello, all my intuitive friends, and welcome back to the Coaches Ascension podcast. So glad to have you here with me today. Today, I'm going to be talking about the emotional intelligence of rage and how we can all step into it and learn something from it that changes our lives. So, welcome to this conversation with my higher self. Enjoy. So, a good friend of mine and longtime podcaster recommended that I do a podcast just by myself. I always think of podcasting as a conversation between a host and an interviewee. You know what she said to me was, people want to hear from you. They want to hear what you have to say. And I was like, what? Really? Why? Why would I have something to share? But I thought about it for a while and I thought, okay, let me just give this a try. So what I really want to offer in these conversations is an opportunity to hear me bring in my own higher self. And this is the voice that I hear in my head all the time. It's my, I don't know, this is strong, but like my life director at this point. For a long time, I had to figure out if it was useful, if it was real, if it really was trustworthy. And I probably spent 30 years really building the level of trust that I have with this higher self voice that I hear all the time. And now my life is now in enough alignment that it's easier to follow. In other words, this voice that has helped me stay on track in my life was not always something I wanted to hear when I got off track. When I would get off track in my life, sometimes for extreme periods of time, it was so uncomfortable to hear this voice because it would basically be saying, this is going to be the outcome and you're not going to like it. If you want to choose something differently, this is what you need to do. And yeah, for however you want to define it, whether it's egoic reasons or security reasons, like, for example, getting into a marriage that was more safe and secure than in alignment with who I was and a reflection of my true self. Yeah, it's torture when you're in a place in your life where you're really not supposed to be, and at the same time you're supposed to be there. So a lot of that was learning for me in so many ways. There's just a list that I'm not going to talk about, but specific to intuition, these bigger life choices that I made that were not on the ideal path for me in living an authentic life were a time in my life when that inner voice was right. And I found over time, and when I finally shifted my life back on path, that it was right. But at the time, it's very hard to hear, because especially when you're not ready for change, it's extremely hard to hear. Not necessarily easy to ignore, but the habit is definitely to ignore. The anxiety and fear that I felt with the potential of really shifting my life into alignment kept me from really taking that action until things were just unbearable for me. But I also have always had, since I was little, this strong sense of where I'm going in my life, what I'm here, what I'm meant to do. And that's been verified multiple different ways over the years. And for whatever reason, I had to do things that were I had to do things, I had to make choices that were harder, that put me in positions of discomfort for long periods of time. And yes, they were, quote, off path, and they were also required for me to really build that trust. And they were required for me to really understand other points of view. Um, so I don't want you to think that if you feel off track in your life or off the path, and you've been hearing that inner higher self voice saying, like, you need to make a change, you need to shift. And it's so uncomfortable to hear that, because what that means practically may be extremely intimidating or scary or insecure. Um, I don't want you to hear that staying where you are is necessarily a judgment. It's more just, what are the results that you're going to get? You're going to get more of the same versus intentionally creating something that's more in alignment, with, um, intentionally creating that something that, intentionally creating something that's more in alignment with your real self or your authentic self. And I think when people say real self or authentic self, they're really referring to that alignment with the higher self, that voice inside you that says, like, you can do that, but you're not going to like it, or you should really do this, or um, if you do this, like, this will be the outcome, which is much better, even though the road is harder. That that internal knowingness that we have a tendency to ignore. We want to do it our own way, which is the freedom that we have as humans to do it our own way. So today I want to talk about, from my higher self here, I'm going to talk about the emotional intelligence of rage. Why I'm bringing this up? Well, several reasons, three big reasons. One is that astrologically, Mars is going into Aries. Mars rules the constellation or the sign of Aries. Anybody who knows an Aries, Sun Aries, that's me. I'm a Sun Aries. They're very hard-headed. We like to start things and not always finish them. Staying on track can be kind of difficult. And we get hot really easily. I don't mean temperature hot. I mean, like, frustration, anger, rage, um, the sense of unfairness of things or injustice can really heat up an Aries person. So Mars going into its home sign creates even more of that energy. It's not that Mars and Aries is bad energy. It's just hot. It's heated. It's wants to move forward as fast as possible. It wants to use that energy in action. Mars, we say, is the warrior. So usually it's an action toward an end, a goal, fighting for something. And when that energy doesn't have any place to go, it tends to build up and get really hot and may come out as rage. So that's one thing that's coming up actually today. So today is April 9th. Mars, what we call, ingresses into Aries. But what also is present there is a whole bunch of other planets. And so it's like magnified. It's given a bunch of different qualities depending on which planet it connects with. And in particular, there are a couple planets present right away. One is Neptune, which tends to be it's a confusing planet. It wants to go into the allness of things, like the wholeness of things. It doesn't like to separate out. It likes to be calm. It likes to rest. Um, it likes to hang out in the ether, so to speak. It also can cause confusion, dementia, those types of things. So Neptune, and then Saturn. And Saturn is the parent, it's the father, it's the patriarch that says no. And so when Mars hits Neptune and then hits Saturn, it's basically being asked to slow down, to think, to approach this thing that you're going for with more thought, integrity, and discipline. And Mars is like, excuse me, you're in my sign. And it wants to plow through all of those barriers. But when it tries to do that, it gets slowed down, and that slowed down causes that backup of heat, that frustration, that like insta anger, that road rage kind of feeling. So there's a good chance, especially with people who have any planets in their natal chart in Aries, that they are really going to feel this energy. Along with folks who have planets that create a particular relationship to Mars or to Aries throughout the entire zodiac. So that's a lot of people. And I think we may find that we have finally reached, like, internally, we finally reached that explosion point. So I think this month you're going to find people losing it. And I think you're going to find the actions of our current administration to really go overboard. And I think the response to that will be in the rage category. It'll be to the point where people don't care anymore. They're like, that's it. Like, we're making a change. So watch out for that. But more importantly, watch for it within yourself. Another reason why this is coming up is because 2 days ago, it very strongly came up for me. I have had a couple incidences of road rage, particularly with, sorry if this is not your political persuasion, but particularly with someone with all MAGA gear all over their truck and wearing the red hat and everything. They didn't do anything actually to me. They didn't pull out in front of me or anything else. But I'm so angry about how things are with Iran and the fact that all parties are allowing this to continue to go on. I just I had a moment where I was like, I'm going to lose it right now because I can. And what was really interesting about it was that I immediately afterward felt, wow, like I haven't had this kind of anger in years, and how uncomfortable that was for me, and how it felt like, it felt like it felt like creating a self that wasn't my authentic self. And wow, that gave me so much perspective on like how far I've come in my life, and not because I've fixed my anger problem, because, I'm an Aries, like it's going to be there. I'm going to tell people how it is for me. I'm just going to say it. It's going to come out. But in the progress of learning to harness that and slow down and use that Saturn and use that Neptune to be reflective, to be disciplined, to be thoughtful. It doesn't work all the time, but it works way, way, way more often and way better than it ever has in my life before. So this was such a great emotional intelligence opportunity for me to really see my progress. So that's the second reason. There's a third reason that may come back to me, but it's not with me right now. I think the third reason is really just that we are going to encounter this a lot in the next 6 weeks. And I'm inviting, I guess, my higher self and your higher self to look for what to do with that energy. It's such a moment energy. It like happens in the moment, right? There's not even necessarily like a thought coming up to it. It can just like explode. So the reflection here is, how can it serve you without hurting others? How can it serve you? How can that rage serve you? And that'll look different for everybody. And for me, it looked that particular way. It created a contrast. But how can it serve you? And if we can reflect on that Neptunian reflection and thoughtfulness of just sitting with the experience of rage for a moment before it comes out of nowhere and considering, and by the way, I'm doing this real time with myself. As this is coming in through my higher self, this is a teaching for me. So I'm not in any higher position than any of you. So as I'm talking about this, I'm also doing this reflection, which for me is, how can I use this energy as it gets amplified in others or in myself? Let's see. Well, right now I'm feeling like my spine is lighting up and I feel like energy coming up my spine, out my face and the top of my head and my arms. So there's that. So there's actually a physical, what would you call, I want to say track, but like outlet maybe for the energy. Like if you think of it in physics terms rather than in mental terms, that energy is rising, rage like fire, it rises through the body. So as it's rising through your body, open the outlet doors, open it through the top of your head, open it out your arms and out the palm of your hands, open it through your heart center. Allow it to be a push that wide opens your heart center. Feel the pain in your heart that is part of the source of the immediacy of this rage and need to change something. And I think really what we're talking about here is using rage as a change agent, channeling that rage through discipline, through that Saturnian energy of discipline and parenting yourself, and channeling that into change. Maybe that's going to a protest. Maybe that is writing a letter to your congressman. If it's like rage comes up with families, if it's a family member, how can you channel that rage in a way that allows you to change how you experience that family member? Maybe that changes that you stop talking to them because you need space. Maybe that change is you have a real conversation with them for the first time about what's going on for you. How can you channel that energy into something that is making a shift in your life toward your authenticity rather than away from your authenticity? So all of this is like energy moving through my body right now. So I'm like, whoo, I don't feel rage, but I feel like, just, it's like tingles all over and things going up through the top of my head. And there's a lot going on in my body right now. So I want to just hang with this for a second and see if it opens something up, because sometimes that movement is trying to dislodge something that maybe one of the roots that triggers that energy, or that I would say that energy is flowing through us. Mars and Aries, man, this energy is going to come through. But the opportunity to dislodge something in the body that slows it down, that creates resistance, that builds heat. If we can use that energy as physics coming through our body to dislodge that may be useful. So I want to just check in here for a second and see how that's occurring for me. Yeah. As I'm taking this time, I just invite you to if you're not driving, close your eyes and be present to your body, and maybe have a presence to like anything coming up in your life that is hot, that's creating that resistance heat, and allow that heat to actually move outward through your body, up and out as the direction it wants to go. So what we want to avoid is pushing it down into the ground. Like people say, you should ground yourself. Great. Yeah, ground yourself. That's fine. But this particular energy needs to go up and out. If you push it down, it will create more resistance. You're pushing against it. So while you can still ground yourself by putting your feet on the floor and feeling the earth, when you feel that energy rising, let it rise. But instead of it coming out your mouth or your throat, allow it to come out your arms or out the top of your head, and just let that flow. And this can be really uncomfortable, actually. Um, so it's okay if it's like, oof, I don't want to do that, because these energies are uncomfortable. They're hot. Um, let's see. So take a minute to just be with however you are, wherever you might feel resistance. Breathe into it a bit and allow it to rise up through the top of your head, out your arms. Just let it rise. The image that's coming to me now is like a campfire. And you can create a beautiful campfire, right? That's like just perfect. It's not too blazing, and it's going up instead of being blown around. And it needs to be tended to. Unattended, it can go out of control and create forest fire and damage. So we want to manage our fire. We want the fire. The fire creates change. Let's hold that fire in a sacred way, in a way that is authentic to ourselves, meaning it's reflecting that injustice that we're experiencing. Or really, to me, rage is like, oh, it's like all of the emotions have been going on for a while, and then there's this moment where they like all kind come to the same point, and just like it's like a nuclear explosion. There's enough pressure that it explodes outward. So yeah, wow, I'm just ugh. I don't know if you're feeling how uncomfortable and also necessary it is to allow this to just move throughout the body. It's a great image, though, to just imagine that controlled campfire that's well attended. And it's not hard to attend, yeah? You just kind of putting another stick on when you need to, or chopping a piece of wood, or the little things you need to do to attend to the fire. But most of the time, you're watching it, you're observing it, you're enjoying the heat from it, the smell of campfire, the ability to roast marshmallows. Like, there's so many benefits to that campfire when it is attended. And I don't want to say, people say with fire, we want to contain it, right? We don't want to contain the rage. We want to um, tend to it or attend to it. We want to pay attention to what it's doing. Is it rising up? Is it dwindling out? Is the wind blowing embers somewhere? We're tending to what's happening in the fire. And then we are providing it fuel or drawing back the fuel in order to allow it to be in service to us. So now, like you, I'm trying to think of like, all right, what's my life marshmallow? What's my campfire smell? What are the benefits that I can receive from allowing this energy to be attended to and allowed to move up and out? and I don't know. So I invite you to just look and see what is your marshmallow? What is the joy that you have around a campfire, and how is that metaphorically reflected in your own life? Um, for me, yeah, it does come back to change. It comes back to enough push to finally get me out of a way of thinking, to finally get me out of my chair or off the couch or to the voting box, or like it's energy in motion. And the universe is offering us an opportunity with Neptune and Saturn to tend to it in a way that is useful. So when that it's basically the universe is saying like, okay, we're going to build some heat here. We're going to pour a little gasoline on the fire and see if you can use the other energies that are provided to tend to that fire. The other thing I didn't mention is that Mercury and the sun are also in Aries. Mercury is the planet of communication and intellect and short distance travel. And while Mercury is in here, it's also going to come in contact with Mars. And so that rage is going to want to come out of your mouth. You're going to want to be communicating it. So if we're tending to the rage, how can we use communication as a change agent in a disciplined and thoughtful way? That's basically what those planets are asking us to do in Aries. Create new motion, make change, tend to it in a way that is adult, and communicate it in a way that is supportive and reflective of who you are and the change that you want to see in the world. That's pretty good. Another note on that, I did say the sun. The sun is your identity. So as the sun moves through Aries, it's asking you to look at this part of your identity. Maybe you don't rage. Maybe you are afraid of anger. Maybe you're a person who just goes, shuts way down when this energy starts to build. If that's the case, my invitation for you, probably Libras, which is really Libra is the balance, and it's the opposing energy of Aries. And when you have a lot of Libra as opposed to a lot of Aries, you tend to withdraw and be a people pleaser. So if you fall into that opposing category, this is the opportunity for you to find that balance, to allow that upward and outward movement. You don't have to communicate it. You don't have to you don't have to allow it to control any part of your life. And you can even just perceive it as a physical shift. So all you need to do is tune into your body and find where that heat is, that resistance. And for some of you, you may have pushed it way down. So start looking down in your pelvic area and just allow it. Just all you have to do is actually just set an intention for energy that's there that wants to rise and allow, and just sit with that. It's okay to rise. I allow this energy to rise and leave my body. I allow this energy to rise and give me knowledge, experience, and wisdom. I allow this energy to rise and bring me insight into who I am and what I want to express in the world. So just take a moment, allow that energy to arise. Give it permission. You may rise. It's like a judge. All rise. All rise. Rise that fire. Tend to it. Snuffing it out is not tending to it when we want to benefit from it. So, as we come to a close on this topic of the emotional intelligence of rage, I invite you to consider where resistance lives in your body, where resistance lives in your life, and to just intend and allow movement. You can observe a fire and still be attending to it. So you can allow that movement and tend to it. Put your attention there, attend to it. Allow it to burn up and out. So as we move forward into the rest of April and the beginning of May, be aware of the heat that is building in your body or in others. Be aware of how you're responding to it. Be aware if it's happening for others that it will come through your body, most likely, especially if you are a Libra or an empath. You are going to feel this. Allow it to rise. Use it for movement, use it for change in a reflective, adult, and properly communicative way that is consistent with who you really know yourself to be. And I, my friends, promise to do the same. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me. I didn't intend this to become a meditation, but kind of did. So hopefully that is something that is useful for all of you. And if so, let me know in the comments or send me a note. That would be really helpful as I am on this journey of trying to figure out if I have things of value to share on the podcast that just come from me, my ideas, my wisdom, and my higher self. Let me know. It's really great, again, to have you all here, and thank you. Thank all of you. If you enjoyed this episode, please come and join us on Patreon, where you can get free intuitive readings, articles about using your intuition in coaching, videos of our podcasts, and more. Until next time, keep tending to your fire and allowing the energy to rise. And I will see you again soon. In a world that's shifting, the veil grows thin. Truth is whispering deep within. Old ways fading, new light comes. We rise together, soul and all.